Welcome to our follow-up to the webinar, How to Unify Enterprise Service Agreements Using the USM Method. In this session, we'll offer some ideas on how to connect the dots between external customer-facing services and the increasingly diverse array of internal and external supporting services that enable great customer experience. Now, last time we got into the fact that services that serve external customers, which is where the money's made, are almost always dependent on complex supply chains or networks, links of interdependent services. And this is true both inside and outside the enterprise. We also talked about how, especially for enterprise service management, an unambiguous, universal, and logically repeatable definition of a service is so important, and how USM achieves this. And we briefly illustrated how USM's non-redundant process model and standardized workflows were an important building block for unified enterprise service agreements. And then finally, we highlighted a few of the ways the USM method can result in streamlining and improving the effectiveness of your service management strategy, regardless of the number of practice frameworks, standards, or reference models you decide to leverage. This video will explore some of the ways you can connect the customer experience dots along this path of complex enterprise services. I'll highlight some of the complexities of enterprise service supply chains, why consistently delivering value in a VUCA world is so difficult. We'll give you a quick refresh of how we unify enterprise service agreements with the USM method. And then I'll illustrate how you can use the USM method to establish continual service improvement as a standard routine of the enterprise and engage all the diverse stakeholders in your service supply chain. We know that the customer experience is a cumulative measurement over time, and this focus on customers really isn't new. Outside-in thinking has been around since the 80s and 90s, and it can help connect the dots of customer experience by aligning organizational goals with customer expectations. And this puts customers at the heart of decision making and enables a more sustainable and successful enterprise service management strategy. But we know that the external customer experience depends on a complex service ecosystem with many different service teams inside and outside the enterprise. And we also know that all business results originate outside the enterprise. Your enterprise service management strategy must be based on cooperation between all stakeholders in the supply chain. And this requires increasing levels of integration, which increases the need for standardization. And this is where the USM method introduces the concept of a link. For sustainable supply chains and service ecosystems, you'll need strong links. And the USM customer provider interaction model gives us a universal, unified link across complex service ecosystems. And it does so while still allowing each service team to leverage whichever practice frameworks, standards, reference models, or organizational topologies are best suited for them to meet the needs of their internal and external customers. And at the same time, we know the world is VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. It leads to disruptive innovation, basically radical changes in business models and the transformational change we often hear about. And what we'll focus on today is how the USM method and the service management system it enables can help. This makes governance more important than ever. Change is constant. Customer wants and needs, technology, people, and practices are all rapidly evolving. But you can't just change your vision amidst all this change. In fact, it's more important than ever that everyone have a clear understanding of the vision and mission of the organization, especially during times of transformational change. Ken Wendell's value formula recognizes this. In fact, I believe it's really complementary to the USM method and vice versa. Both apply systems thinking to governance and management. And the value formula recognizes that governance and management are two sides of the same coin. In practice, it's hard to create one without touching the other. So the best result will be when the two are well aligned and focus on value. But management is about execution. And as the value formula says, execution is the secret sauce. This is where the USM method can help. The service management system that the USM method creates works to unify service agreements and enable continual service improvement as a standard enterprise-wide routine using any organizational structure, any combination of tool sets, and any practice framework, standard, or reference model for any and all services and all service teams that make up your end-to-end service ecosystem. The USM method achieves this by providing standardization at a pure process level. Now, while the nature of the facilities that are provided by different service teams can vary significantly, from a service management perspective, what any service provider does doesn't change, regardless of what kind of service provider you are or what kinds of services you deliver. Who and how activities that are performed can change significantly, and this is where industry specific practices and standards live. So we can tailor or localize these routines without having to change the structure of our service agreements for each provider in our service supply chain. So here's a quick review of how each link in the service supply chain works. From a service management perspective, all service providers react to four basic types of calls from a customer. A wish to change something they have or for something they don't have that they now want. A request to change something that they already get from you. A call saying something's broken or isn't working, which would be an incident. Or some other request or question, a service request. These four types of calls trigger the five reactive workflows in the USM method. All service providers then use three types of assets to deliver on these requests: people, processes, and tools or technology. The providers use these assets as a system, and the interaction between the components of the service provider systems are its routines. And these routines are derived from the non-redundant USM process model and include procedures and work instructions, which are localized by the provider in order to tailor these routines for their customers. But the logic at a process and workflow level does not change. So each provider, regardless of the nature of their particular facilities, can tailor their service agreements to specific customer requirements while still maintaining a unified logical structure for all service agreements of any kind. Each provider in a service ecosystem can use the USM management system as a unifying link across external customer facing services that are core to the business and where all business results originate, internal customer facing services that support these business results, as well as customer agreements in the case of outsourcing. So the USM method is very well suited to service integration and management practices as well. What's important to understand about the customer provider interaction model and USM's unified links is that there are proactive workflows as well. All non redundant USM processes have feedback loops that can trigger positive opportunities or negative threats as part of risk management. This ensures a constant stream of structured feedback to governance, which can use the risk database to prioritize risks based on the enterprise risk appetite and business case. All service teams now use the management system as a standard routine of the enterprise, and prioritized improvement sprints are unified based on enterprise needs. The recursive nature of the customer provider interaction model and the unified service agreement structure are important building blocks for uncovering the secret of effective execution for service providers. So, the USM management system combines standardization and flexibility, which drives both alignment to the enterprise vision and strategy, as well as the ability to adapt to the specific requirements of each service team. And USM is proactive as well, since feedback is collected as a standard routine for all services and all service teams. And the combination of standardized processes and workflows, along with unified service agreements, ensures that the management system provides governance with a coherent and consistent flow of information across the entire service ecosystem. This can significantly optimize communication, resource allocation, and collaboration. And perhaps most importantly, the USM management system can align all operational activities with business results by focusing on external customer facing service delivery. So connecting the dots to business results is clear and consistent as things change. This is especially important in a VUCA world. USM can allow you to adapt quickly to change, monitor and assess risk on a continuous basis, improve cross functional collaboration and cooperation, enable data driven decision making, and align operational activities with customer needs. And all of these are important elements of success in a VUCA world. In part one, we mentioned a service agreement workshop that focuses on helping customers recognize and interpret localized services in terms of the USM method. And this basically gets key staff to understand how to specify services based on the USM method and structure all agreements in a consistent, easy to understand format. Each of these service agreements will have key performance indicators that are aligned to business and customer results. And these take the form of key result indicators. Now, the KRIs play an important role in connecting the customer experience dots, since each service agreement will have their own key performance indicators, or KPIs, and these KPIs help the provider identify which performance indicators can be improved that will lead to results that are visible to the key result indicators. So all similarly structured agreements can be aligned with the enterprise vision and mission. Now, the USM is not saying that this is necessarily new thinking, but the USM method took the time to carefully think through the principles that drove its creation. And these principles can also be used by governance to help set policies that help management balance internal and external customer focus improvement efforts. So the USM method provides simple mechanisms for connecting the dots between governance and management as well. And of course, the goal is to establish a universal, unified, and sustainable enterprise management system that becomes a standard routine of the enterprise. Now, USM coaching can assist customers as they broaden the scope of the management system through repeated improvement sprints, achieving a business as usual or standard routine as soon as possible. You can take a do it yourself approach and just read the book, subscribe to the Service Foundation, and start using the free templates and tools. You can supplement that with formal certification training if needed. And you can engage USM professionals such as coaches for supported deployments. USM can be introduced into any part of any service team or provider and expanded over time. And as always, you can schedule me for a free 30-minute consultation anytime. Thank you.